Hey devs, in this video we'll be going over how to build a cloud deployable REST API using Nitric's Go SDK. The context of the project will be a REST API that stores new user profiles. For this, we will need a collection to store the profiles and an API to interact with the profiles. We start with the Go starter template, which we created using the Nitric new command. Go to the file named main.go in the functions directory and delete the contents to get started. Now that that's done, let's start building the Profiles API. We'll add our main function and create our API. We will name the API public. After that, we can create our collection. We'll name it Profiles and give our function permissions to read, write, and delete from the collection. From here, let's add some features to that function that allow us to work with the profiles. The first route we will make is a post request which creates a profile. It will have the route /profiles and will accept a HTTP handler. We'll first start by creating a new ID for the profile that is about to be created. We'll generate the UUID. We'll then unmarshal the profile request from the body of the request. We'll then create our profile by getting a reference to the doc by the new ID and then setting the document as the profile request. For this, we'll need to pass in a context. When we receive HTTP requests in our API, it has a context object that is passed into it. By passing that into the collection requests, we allow for built-in tracing. We then set our response body as the generated ID so it can be referenced by the user and return the context. The next route we will create allows us to get the contents of a document by its ID. First step is getting the ID from the path parameters. The next step is to get the document from the collection that contains that ID. If there is no document with that ID, then return not found. We will then set the response to the profile contents as a JSON string, then return the context as well as the potential error. The next route we'll get all the profiles from the collection. First, we'll fetch all the profiles from the collection. Then we'll get all the documents from the query response. And finally, we'll return the profiles as a JSON string. The next route is to delete a profile by its ID. This will look familiar. We will just start by getting our ID from the path parameters. Then we're getting the document by its ID and then deleting it. Again, if the document with that ID can't be found, we'll return a not found status. At the bottom of our main function, we will start our resources using nitric.run. Now that you have an API defined with handlers for each of its methods, it's time to test it locally. First start by running the Nitric server, and then run your function. We can then use any HTTP client to test our request. We will make a few curl requests to demonstrate the API functioning before we deploy it. So here we're just making a post request with a body of a profile named Peter Parker. This will return an ID. We can then use that ID when we fetch the profile using this request. We can then fetch all the profiles and we'll see the Peter Parker profile. We can then delete the profile, again by referencing the ID. Now that we have built and tested the API, we can deploy it worry-free. We will create a stack using Nitric stack new and setting the properties of the stack so it has the name dev. We're deploying to AWS and we're in the US East 1 region. Now we just need to use Nitric up and our application will be deployed to AWS. Once the application is deployed, you'll be able to test it in the cloud. If you want to keep it up there, go ahead, but if you want to take it down, you just need to use the command nitric down. Thanks for watching, and if you have any further questions, you can go to our documentation on nitric.io.